in 2018. In a statement posting on X, Swalwell apologized. The Democrat also denied allegations against him. America is listening to Fox News.
Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your trusted dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Your search ends at the Motor Mile. Choose from over 900 quality pre-owned vehicles, plus a massive selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and now Buick. Plus, the used car superstore. 12 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, one amazing buying experience. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got more than any other dealer in the area. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. Here's the difference. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile with a certified friendly staff and no games, no gimmicks. The Sheeler Motor Mile, now in Christiansburg, Radford, and Pulaski. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Hi, Gary the Third here, and I'm excited to say spring has arrived at Gary's Garden Center with great plants and a great selection. Gary's has seasonal color flowers along with vegetables, 60-plus varieties of herbs, perennial flowers, and much more. With friendly service and great advice, we are always happy to answer your questions. Visit Gary's Garden Center at 794 Leesville Road for all your lawn and garden needs. Stop by, say hi, and take a look around.
You walk into a repair shop, hear the price of their estimate, realize they'll take an eternity to get to you, and go, uh-oh, better get Mako. At Mako of Lynchburg, they're certified to do repairs on any type of car and for any insurance company because they ultimately answer to you. They'll process through insurance companies or help you pay out of pocket. They don't get better prices to insurance companies than they would for you because at Mako, it's all about being honest with you. So if your car needs collision repair or paint, go, uh-oh, better get Mako on Kimber Street in Lynchburg.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
So much of what happens with transfers in modern college athletics, or I should say for those watching on the VTRN Sports Facebook Live and YouTube streams, college athletics. They are technically college students, but they are professional. This is not amateur athletics. So much of it is really motivated by
dollar bills, y'all.
But there's also an element where fit does matter because you're not going to allot
dollar bills, y'all,
to somebody that doesn't exactly fit either your budget and or the right culture and structure. Neoclis of Dallas is the example for Virginia Tech fans. He transferred, or let me rephrase it, announced transferring to North Carolina yesterday. Good get from Michael Malone in the heels. I think there's a bigger picture. You know, people are quick to criticize Mike Young, and some of it's justified. Some of it, I think, also has to be taken through the context of Virginia Tech is balling on a budget, if you will. And when you're balling on a budget, you're prioritizing your resources. And if there's only so much to go around, football is, and I think should, be the one that takes the cake financially. And you have to be in a spot where you have to decide where you're going to put your resources. Does it move the needle anymore? In women's basketball, or where they've apparently allocated a lot of NIL, this according to our friends at TechSideline.com, wrestling. Softball, very strong spot with their team this year. Bree Carrico, Appomattox native, is part of that. She's had a fantastic year. So have the Lady Hokies, including taking 2 of 3 at fellow top 25 rival Virginia this past weekend. They're a legit top 15 team in Blacksburg. So those are things that have to be considered at Virginia Tech. They're not in the same financial pantheon as Texas, for example, or Texas Tech, where there's gobs of old money at Texas or oil money at Texas Tech, and you're just spending everywhere because, frankly, you can afford to. They're not in that category. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It's where they are, and you have to prioritize. And the Oakleys of Dallas, I think, even in that light, you're not. There was the expectation that because he came from Europe, because he was a projected NBA draft pick, there are only 2 rounds, not 7, like the upcoming NFL draft, which you'll be able to hear on the VTR and Sports app next week. Can't wait for that. Always excited for it. But because of that, if you're Virginia Tech, you got to prioritize. And as talented as Neoclis of Dallas was, I think some of this can be put on Mike Young. It's your job as the coach. You're paid millions of dollars to find a way to get the guy into your system. Some of it, I think, also is Neoclis of Dallas. People forget that he's a 19-year-old. That's different from Testa Ritter, who comes from abroad and is a 22-year-old first year, in air quotes, at UVA. We can laugh about that all we want. But because of that, there's a level of maturity. I can look at myself. I don't know about you, TJ. 19 to 22 may not seem like a big gap. 3 years, 39 to 42. People, I don't think they change a ton. Hopefully you're always getting better, but you don't change a ton. 29 to 32. Some. Especially if you're getting married. TJ in that category, I am as well. But 19 to 22 is big. And I'm not just talking about the ability to legally consume adult beverages in America. I'm talking about just your informative years of your life and the way you see the world, the way you handle situations, your ability to process adversity. And frankly, in college athletics, fans booing you when they don't expect a lot. That happened in the Oakleys of Dallas at Virginia Tech. There's pressure that's lumped upon you by people talking about you and putting it out there on social media, like it or not, when you log on. Hard to ignore it if people are saying things about you. You're better equipped to handle that the older you get. Nobody's perfect, but they're better equipped to handle that. And for the Oakleys of Dallas, I think he's better equipped to be not the savior, not the first or second option, but more the second to third option in a program. And with Michael Malone at Carolina, I think for one, yes, I'll tip my cap. I think I'll have a better plan to use him than Mike Young did at Virginia Tech. I think we'll see that. I also think at North Carolina, they're going to be able to surround him with guys. Henry Visar is probably going to be your go-to player for Carolina this coming year. All signs point to him coming back. I use that phraseology because you just don't know who's going to actually enter the portal. Caleb Wilson, to the shock of nobody yesterday, announced he's heading to the NBA draft. But for Carolina, he goes to a spot where he's not expected, whereas Virginia Tech, they've not churned out a ton of real NBA talent that stuck around and haven't gotten a lot of that. Justin Robinson, Nickeil Alexander-Walker are the two that come to mind. But for the most part, it's not the case. Obviously, North Carolina, they have turned out loads of NBA talent, including the greatest basketball player to ever grace this earth, and Michael Jordan. So it's different in expectations. And some personalities are better suited to not be the alpha guy or the A guy, and you just don't handle it very well. And when you're compensated like an alpha, fans expect you to be an alpha. And for Neoclis of Dallas, I think it's a beneficial thing, change the scenery for him. I don't think some of it's financial, but some of it's Virginia Tech was not going to pay him to be the guy anymore because they'd seen that Ben Hammond and Tyler Johnson and Amani Hansberry were better equipped to handle that and showed you as much with how they doled out the minutes down the stretch.
And I think all three of them stayed consistent too. Neo had so much inconsistency that you don't know if you want to pay mighty dollar for that. Whereas, like you said, at Carolina, he doesn't have to be the number one guy. He's just got to be able to get the ball to Vassar and to Jaron Stevenson, who's also returning. Now, if Carolina can get some guards, they're deadly.
They are. That's the thing that they've been missing, and they really could benefit from adding another shooter.
Yeah.
To alleviate a lot of that pressure. Because of Dallas, again, second shooting option, not bad. Do you want him to be your primary option? We saw him kind of fold under that this year. And maybe I'm too harsh, TJ, but that seems like a reasonable criticism. He won't have to be the go-to scorer, but still the go-to shooter when you need buckets, especially if you're down. Teams turn to the three-point shot, and I would rather have Neo to be your second or third three-point shooting option and a ball handler, but your second and third option there, second option handling the ball, second option shooting the three, as opposed to your primary.
And there's some great players out there in the portal. I like how Field of 68 has rated them. There's a couple of VCU kids that can really shoot that are in the portal right now, and they just beat you in the tournament. How ironic would it be to go and get those guys that can shoot the three for VCU on your team?
I mean, Terrence Hill will be the number one obvious option
obviously.
for them. I think Kansas is in the mix for them. And
they are.
And they're desperate right now
Very
after this past
desperate.
year.
Very
I mean,
desperate. They just lost their big man to Louisville too.
Yeah, well, who, by the way, added him and added what's his name from the transfer portal as well. The package deal.
Yeah. And Duke was also in the mix for that, and which Louisville ended up beating them out, which is incredible what you can do with NIL.
I mean, Louisville is in a really healthy spot financially, and what they were able to bring to the equation. Flo Badunga is the big guy they added. They also added one of the guards whose name conveniently escapes me, and with Twitter not working, it's not helping the matter. But the point is, there's desperation, and even if these guys are not that talented, relatively speaking, the market can always change the tone on that and why players are getting paid a lot. More on that with Jon Manson of CFRed.com in about 5 minutes. But speaking of players where the market told them what their value was, we'll get to that in a moment, but learning what your value is. We list what the value of a product is at InsaneRadioDeals.com. And there's always a special. Now there's an additional 42.0% off the list price of every item at InsaneRadioDeals.com now through 4/20. That's Monday, April 20th, when you shop and enter the promo code SNOOP at checkout at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Now, speaking of retention and transfer portal, market economics, more on that in...
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
Sam Lewis agreeing to a deal, love the phraseology of this, to return to Virginia. I kind of thought this was going to be where it goes. And by the way, kudos to the Who's for locking up every major contributor to return from last year's team that was eligible to return. There's some like Jakari White and Dallin Hall whose eligibility is expired, and it's not happening. But Sam Lewis is the one that I think they were wise to let him seek other options and let the market say, you're not worth what you think you're worth or what your agent is. Jerry Ratcliffe kind of corroborated that yesterday in the fast lane. And when you look at the volume of times where he had either a flagrant foul or a technical foul down the stretch run of the season, Wake Forest in the regular season, Tennessee in the NCAA tournament, among other instances, this guy was around a lot. The cooler heads prevail theory, he literally needs to cool his head a little bit. And I do think when you're paying a guy a lot of money, you want the guy to be able to handle himself in this manner. Otherwise, you're viewed as, financially speaking, a liability. And I do believe that factored in to the Sam Lewis market value. And Virginia was able to get him at a rate that allowed them to retain pretty much every key contributor from last year's team. Meanwhile,
number 4.
Speaking of Virginia softball, that is, they dropped 2 of 3 to Virginia Tech softball. I love the resiliency of the Lady Hokies on the diamond. That was really impressive. After dropping Friday's game to come back and rally to win those next 2, they have a loaded pitching staff. We mentioned it a moment ago with former Appomattox Raider Bree Carrico among those, but they have a number of arms that they can throw. And then don't look now, but Liberty softball is now second in Conference USA after taking 2 of 3 from Western Kentucky. If they are somehow able to make the NCAA softball tournament, you could argue this might be one of Dr. Dot Richardson's better coaching jobs, given what they lost last year, the pressure and expectations on them, and how well they've managed to perform. Meanwhile, the other diamond,
number 3,
Liberty baseball. They dropped game 1, but took the 2nd and 3rd against Jacksonville State. Don't look now, but they're in the top 25 of the latest Baseball America polls. This team looks like they are really strong across the board in a lot of areas. I wouldn't, Nick Pierce, I'll defer to him because he's their play-by-play broadcaster, but we asked him about this at one of the media sessions a week ago and said they're really good, but it's hard to put them above the team a couple of years ago that lost to Tennessee in the Super Regional, given the volume of baseball, MLB talent that was on that roster. And I think it's a fair comparison. Nick is very well observed, so I'll tip my cap to him. But Liberty baseball looks really good. They beat Virginia Tech last Tuesday. Hokies dropped 2 of 3 at Boston College. I mean, again, we've talked about market economics for Virginia Tech. I think it's showing in their lack of baseball product this year. Meanwhile, Virginia baseball, they took 2 of 3 at Notre Dame. Not flashy, but a good series win for them. And Virginia men's lacrosse, they were bound to lose at some point. They fell at Syracuse 14-9. It was relatively close, but in the second half, Syracuse managed to get a 13-9 lead. And then by and large in the fourth quarter, every time they got the ball, they bled, about 70 seconds off that shot clock. They were really good at just trimming a minute at a time and just chunking that game down in terms of taking a chunk of time regularly in that fourth quarter every time they got the ball and just limited the possessions, kind of out Virginia lacrosse. Meanwhile,
number 2,
Louisiana Tech and Conference USA officials remain in settlement negotiations. It was initially reported yesterday about a legal resolution being reached, there are two lessons to this. One of them in a moment. One of the lessons is I get what Bleed Tech Blue, which is a Louisiana site, was trying to do of breaking this story. I don't think it'll ultimately come out to look bad because I think they're going to end up being right. The Louisiana Tech within the next few days will separate from Conference USA and go to the Sun Belt. But I think you're trying to get ahead of your Ross Dellinger of Yahoo, your Pete Thamels of ESPN. I understand it because those guys are tied in administratively and now agent-wise where they get a lot of those stories. So when you can break it on a local level, I understand the temptation, but I also get the fact that, sometimes you're jumping the gun. However,
Number one.
I do think we're ultimately going to get to the resolution that Louisiana Tech is going to get out of Conference USA and go to the Sun Belt. There are too many leagues pointing. And if you're in settlement talks right now, it generally means both sides want to get a deal done at some point and move on with their lives. Meanwhile, we'll move on with the Fast Lane when we return more on the Liberty Flames with Jon Manson, who's slated to join us next on the VTR and Sports app and ask that smart speaker, open VTR and Sports.
Hi, Gary the Third here, and I'm excited to say spring has arrived at Gary's Garden Center with great plants and a great selection. Gary's has seasonal color flowers along with vegetables, 60-plus varieties of herbs, perennial flowers, and much more. With friendly service and great advice, we are always happy to answer your questions. Visit Gary's Garden Center at 794 Leesville Road for all your lawn and garden needs. Stop by, say hi, and take a look around.
Do you love the 80s? Whether you were Team Madonna or Prince, this night is for you. Hi, I'm Kelly Diaz with Casa of Central Virginia, inviting you to Retro Rewind, our totally rad 80s party for a great cause. Join us April 11th from 6 to 10 at the Boonesboro Rurton Club for an awesome 80s DJ, arcade games, dance floor, and more. Best of all, every ticket helps Casa volunteers advocate for children who have experienced abuse or neglect in our community. Grab your friends, moonwalk over to cvcasa.org, and get your tickets before they're gone.
If you own a diesel truck or diesel fleet, it's time to go wicked and get serviced for the spring. And when you go wicked, take 25% off your service request for a limited time. Wicked Diesel in Bedford will allow 25% off a transmission flush, coolant flush, oil change, differential service, or AC service. Your choice. Just tell Josh you want that 25% off service special. Download the coupon at wickeddieselva.com. Need diesel repair? Go wicked.
Lunchtime just got an upgrade. Stop by Macadoo's for our $8.95 weekday special and grab a legendary sandwich at an unbeatable price. Choose from your favorite classics, the Coney Island, Betty Bob, Ragtime, or Stogie. Classic sandwiches packed with savory meats and flavors in between fresh bread. Make it a meal by pairing your sandwich with a sidekick, a warm cup of soup, or crispy chips. Great food, cozy vibes, and the best deal in town.
It's time to share, breaking that ball. Just to be there, the only one. Just to be there at Macadoo's.
We'll see you at the Do's.
What do high-performing athletes have in common? They don't just train their bodies, they train their minds. The best competitors have a strong mental support system that keeps them focused, confident, and at the top of their game. Want that same support in your own life? Central Virginia Counseling can help. No matter what life throws your way, our team is here for you with 2 Lynchburg locations on Wigington Road and Timberlake Road and telehealth available anywhere in Virginia. Take the first step today. Visit centralvirginiacounseling.com.
Spring means green lawns, open windows, and afternoons spent outdoors. At Brownstone Properties, you'll find homes with private yards, with locations near scenic walking trails, or beautiful local parks, perfect for family picnics or peaceful strolls. This season, find your place to grow. Start today at brownstoneproperties.com or call 434-385-1025. Brownstone Properties, where home is at the heart of everything we do.
Head to Miller-Built Outdoor Equipment during the Toro Spring Sales event for incredible savings on select Toro zero-turn mowers. Get up to $300 off on select Time Cutter and Titan zero turns, or choose one of the amazing financing offers. When it comes to taking care of your acreage, there's nothing like the MyRide suspension that lets you float above the bumps and rough terrain. Visit Miller-Built Outdoor Equipment in Lynchburg today for the best sales, service, and expert advice around. Toro, count on it.
We're making it happen at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier used car dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years with the best selection, value, finance options, and exceptional service. Plus 900 pre-owned vehicles all in one location. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume. The Used Car Superstore is your one-stop for most makes and models. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Plus, Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is easy on the Motor Mile with finance options for every budget. 900 used vehicles in stock now. More than any other dealer in the area. Hurry in for straightforward pricing and more inventory arriving daily. Why wait? Make it happen at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier family-owned car dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for 50 years. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
2 in, 2 more in now. 2 brothers, Kobe and Cooper Campbell, committing to the Liberty Flames. And Jon Manson from ASeaofRed.com was all over it when the news broke a couple of days ago. The write-up is still there at ASeaofRed.com. And Jon Manson is here now in the Fast Lane. John, great to be speaking with you for the Liberty Flames. Will you add them to the fact that the Flames' first 2 additions were kind of wing post players? Are you seeing this roster come together in a way now that could give you and other Flames fans confidence that with a couple more additions, this thing will look ready to roll starting in the fall of this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to have a lot of confidence in what the staff has done already. I mean, these 4 portal additions are all 4 guys that look like they can and probably should be expected to start from day one when the season tips off in early November at midnight against High Point. But with those, and then also a really talented 3-person incoming, freshman class. Highlighted by the 4-star Eli Sankum. I think you're starting to see what this roster is going to look like, and Coach McKay and his staff still have 2 open roster spots the way the roster is currently constructed to kind of work with, and I think there's a couple of places you could go there. I still think you'll always take a 6'9", 6'10" plus big that can alter shots and be a rim protector and defensive presence in the paint. I think you'll always take one of those, and then that would still leave you with another spot to work with that, which I think you're really flexible in who you could use that on, and we'll continue to monitor that as you go. But you're looking at the Campbell brothers. I mean, those are 2 guys that started a lot of games for Troy this past season, a team that was in the NCAA tournament, won the Sun Belt, and Cooper specifically has started the last 2 years at Troy and was part of both of their NCAA tournament appearances. So it's 2 veteran guards that Liberty really needed to help replace the outgoing stars there of Colin Porter and Caden Matheny.
JC Manson, A Sea of Red. Those are his Twitter accounts, or just ASeaofRed.com. to read the great work of Jon Manson, who is with us here in the Fast Lane. John, you mentioned, by the way, High Point and Liberty opening up. It's not quite midnight on the mountain because it'll be in North Carolina. What do you make of this? I mean, other than the fact that we're going to have to probably be downing some espresso shots and maybe in the shout out to my guy, Ty Gibbs, who won over the weekend, some Monster Energy drinks to stay up late during this one.
Yeah, definitely need a couple of energy drinks or a couple of naps as well to make it to that one. But no, I mean, I think it's a great game for both teams. Obviously, from Liberty's perspective as well too. You get a team in High Point that was really the mid-major darling of the NCAA tournament this past year. A team that has kind of separated themselves among most of the rest of the Big South, and you expect them with their resources and commitment to winning in basketball at a high level to once again compete for a conference championship there in the Big South. And so it's a really attractive game for Liberty. And both teams will look completely different. You can go and look at what High Point's been doing in the portal, and they've got a highly rated transfer portal class so far. So you would expect both of these teams to be right back in the mix of things at the top of their conference. And it goes back to what we've talked about previously, Ed, multiple times about if these high major Power Four type schools aren't going to play these top mid majors, they just got to bandy together and play each other. And you love seeing that with Liberty and High Point, and also it two programs that, like we said, have made some noise nationally at the mid-major level, but they're just separated by a couple of hours as well, too.
Jon Manson with us here in the fast lane. Is this possibly a brewing rivalry, not just on the court, but given that Liberty and High Point are two of the programs at their level that are uniquely equipped to be players when it comes to building rosters in the way that a lot of their peers may struggle to do?
I think it's definitely an opportunity for there to be a really good mid-major rivalry between the two. Like I said, they're just a couple of hours of drive away, so it's convenient for fans of both schools to get to games if they were to establish a long-term home and home type series, which I would certainly welcome. And obviously the two programs have a lot of history going back to Liberty's time in the Big South, where the two were up at the top of the conference more times than not. The last handful of years Liberty was in that league, and then you add to it Owen Aquino transferring there from Liberty a year ago, and now these two will get to meet on the hardwood once again, and doing it in Rock Hill, which is the home of another Big South former rival of Liberty, the Winthrop Eagles. Obviously it's not at the game won't be played on Winthrop's home floor, but in the same town. So a lot of ties back to Liberty's Big South days in that season opener.
Jon Manson with us here in the fast lane. We're touching on the Liberty Flames and what's going on right now. Just a couple of things that have been brought up. We've brought about the players that have come to Liberty. We can do kind of a full overview of who's been added, but one of those has been, and two of them have actually been from Jeff Goodman. One of them being, he had a high major coach that said that there are guys that are averaging 3 points a game and they're asking for $1 million. And then he put out his tiers of players and what they're collecting financially within the transfer portal. And wings are in the $2.5 to $3 million range. Let's just go a little under and say, Brett Decker Jr. is somewhere in that ballpark. Then you look at Tennessee women's basketball and Avery Mills, and that roster literally had no players when she committed to it a week ago. They've started to fill it out, but everybody had transferred out from that program. Are those the things that people that may be critical of Liberty need to keep in mind? Is Decker to Baylor and Avery Mills to Tennessee, it's not about disloyalty to Liberty. It seems like they're players that are taking advantage of programs that are desperate enough to throw insane amounts of money at these people who probably have a limited shelf life to get it.
Yeah, I mean, you start with Decker. He's the guy that, we'd heard rumblings of him being a guy that could demand seven figures if and when he went to the portal, going back several months. And, so it shouldn't have come as a shock to Liberty fans. And going to a place like Baylor, I mean, a similar type of institution in terms of being a Christian school, faith-based program. And Scott Drew, who I know is well regarded in some of those circles, and it's a program that won a national championship not too long ago. So, and you get to play in the Big 12, where you're going to play some other nationally relevant programs pretty much every night, and you welcome that opportunity for a guy like Brett Decker, and obviously Liberty would prefer to keep him, but it's not unlike something that happened a while back, like a Seth Curry going from Liberty to Duke, and it certainly worked out for him, and it worked out just fine for Liberty as well too. And obviously Curry has gone on to make himself a household name, not just what his brother's done, but a name for himself in a long and storied tenure in the NBA. And after spending 3 or 4 years there at Duke, after the 1 year at Liberty, and hopefully Decker has a lot of success, and now he can even do it with at least legally getting paid through NIL and rev share. And then you look at Avery Mills going to somewhere like Tennessee, where that program's one of the household blue blood names in women's basketball. And, just for her to be able to play at that level, somebody that's grown up playing the game certainly is, I'm sure it's a dream come true for her. And I'm sure it doesn't hurt to be able to pocket a little bit of change You got to remember women's basketball. There's not quite as many professional opportunities in that sport as there are for men's basketball, where a lot of these players that once they finish their college basketball career, whether they're going on to the NBA or not, they still have plenty of opportunities to go play overseas and make a lot of money there as well.
Jon Manson from AseaofRed.com is with us in the Fast Lane. We are at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, however you listen to podcasts. John, pivoting off of basketball, we've had plenty of good discussion on the Flames, and we'll have more as rosters start to come together. Liberty football, they have their spring, I guess we call it festival this coming weekend. What are you looking for out of this?
Yeah, I think they're calling it a spring showcase this year as opposed to a spring game. Just going to be a glorified practice, maybe a little bit of scrimmage going on. And, obviously you got to look at the quarterback room. What are we going to see out of a Deshaun Purdy and a Jalen Henderson, two transfers that have come in, and really our first chance to get an extended look at them, maybe see some live action of them, obviously not getting taking hits or anything like that, but just to see how much they've learned this offense. I got a chance to talk to the new quarterback coach, Malcolm Dixon, today in his media availability, and he talked about how these guys have really impressed him with their ability to learn the offense, an offense that is or can be complicated and a lot of moving parts with the option and the RPO game and all of those things, but these guys have been able to quickly adjust to it, and more than that, they've come in to be great teammates and leaders amongst this room and amongst this entire team. So we're certainly going to be keeping tabs on that and just seeing how these guys perform under fire. And there's a lot of new faces all over the program, all over the team. So running back room, receiver room, who are some of those top targets that a Purdy or a Henderson and the other quarterbacks will be throwing to. Obviously, you got a Jamari Person, but there's others that are a lot of unknowns. Some guys that have transferred in, like a Rayshon Cunningham from Charleston Southern, a Mekhi Jackson from Indiana, and before that, Appalachian State. So really wanting to see how that kind of comes together. Obviously, it's only been 15 practices in the spring, but that's still a lot of time to begin to show who you're going to be. And on the defensive side of the ball, you're looking to see what that defense looks like under new defensive coordinator Sean Quinn, and what type of system is he putting in? Will we see some different packages? Maybe more 3 linebacker sets and 4 down linemen, maybe some 3 down linemen. We'll just have to see, what type of system he's brought and what type of physicality that team brings, especially up front. That front 7 returns 5 starters, and will they be able to, kind of help elevate that defense to be one of the tops in Conference USA and get back to where, Liberty can compete for Conference USA championship like they did a couple years ago.
Reasonable questions and observations on the Liberty Flames from their spring event this coming Saturday. Showcase, festival, whatever term you want. It's not a traditional game, but it's a chance for Flames fans to get a sneak peek at the football team before they get ready to prepare for the summer and then summer camp, which, Sean, it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah, you're right about that. It's never ending, nonstop. But I really enjoy the way that the NCAA has made that change. We can trash on the NCAA a lot and some of their decisions they make or don't make, and understandably so. But to go to just the one transfer portal for college football, I think that makes a huge difference. These coaches going through spring ball now are able to say, this is our group, and these 15 practices aren't just auditions for players to eventually go into the portal and go elsewhere and leave your team rated, which has happened so many times, especially for Liberty's past couple of years. So you can really use these 15 practices to develop your guys and your team and really know what you are and where your weaknesses are and where your strengths may be as you go in, putting in that off-season game plan going into the summer and then training camp.
No question. You could argue, and look, I made this case for a while, John. I know you don't want to make excuses, but that defensive line probably would have performed a lot better if they weren't gutted from the spring transfer portal window last year. You may have lost some of the same pieces, but you have at least had time to replace those, whereas that unit never seemed like it had a chance to materialize in a real productive way this past year.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You lose a guy like a TJ Bush and some others that Liberty lost in the spring portal, you have no time to evaluate players and put a game plan together to go out and get some. And it was just unfortunate the way it went for Liberty last year, but that can't be an excuse this year. They had the December signing period, the January portal, and then also the February signing period. And Liberty also returns some talented pieces in the defensive line. You look at like a Brenton Williams and Mike Jarvis and some others. They've got some pieces. It's just a matter of can those newcomers mesh in there? And the biggest question mark is, can that defensive line get pressure on opposing quarterbacks? That's something that Liberty really hasn't been able to do pretty much all of Coach Chadwell's tenure at Liberty, his first 3 seasons. It's something that has to improve this year for that defense to take its next step. And I think a guy like Sean Quinn to lead the defense is someone that certainly will be putting an emphasis on that. And it's just a matter of those guys going out and being able to produce on Saturdays or even in the midweek when we get into October.
It'll be here soon, even midweek on the mountain. Jon Manson is here now, though, although we'll let him go. Jon, thank you for your time in the Fast Lane. We love connecting with you. We look forward to it, and we will have plenty more time to delve into the basketball roster additions as they continue to trickle in.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, Ed.
It's our pleasure. Jon Manson from AseaRed.com with us here in the Fast Lane. Now, on to the great Evan Hughes. Virginia Tech baseball joining it in progress for a midweek contest against Radford, and then NBA playoff playing game action tonight featuring Trey's Miami Heat at the Charlotte Hornets.
Career high. Number 2 key pregame thought. Congratulations to Tech catcher Henry Cook, earning national recognition earlier today. Named the